Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal and you are watching the Mojo Story. Prime Minister Modi was in Bihar and at a rally he said that India fulfilled its promise of a strong response to the April 22 Pahalgam terror attack through Operation Sindoor that was launched on May 7. The operation targeted 9 terror camps in Pakistan and Pakistan occupied Kashmir, bringing terrorists to their knees with minimal uh, collateral damage there in Pakistan. Home Minister Amit Shah visited Poonch today. He met with the families of those who are affected by Pakistani shelling. You can see from those visuals. Home Minister said that the strikes destroyed Pakistan's surveillance network, crippling its ability to wage info-led warfare. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, meanwhile, you can see on those visuals, he was with the Navy today and he praised the Navy's role, saying that INS Vikrant's deployment confined the Pakistani Navy to its shores and forced Islamabad to seek de-escalation. Trying to get a better understanding of Operation Sindoor and what we saw in all of these days, we joined by an eminent panel today. We joined by Major General Dhruv Katoch, Director India Foundation, and also Alok Bansal, who's a strategic analyst. We're talking at a time when a delegation from India, multiple delegations are in visiting different countries and trying to put across Indian point of view. Now they cut across party lines and they're members from different political parties who are actually in different countries talking to people there. But if I may start with you, General Saab, we have been speaking a lot about this, but now things have become much clear. There's satellite imagery that has come out and we're getting more details about Operation Sindoor. We heard the Prime Minister, we heard the Home Minister, we heard the Defense Minister, we heard the Air Chief, we heard the Navy Chief, we heard, we're getting more and more details with every passing day. How do you assess the operational success of Operation Sindoor from a military point of view?
Thank you, Zafar. Zafar, I think when, a very dispassionate analysis tells me that it has been a complete, I would say, as close as 100% when we are looking into the success. Now, there's been a lot of confusion as to why we called it off early. I think we have to define success by what was the initial aim. And the initial aim of the operation, that was before 7th of May, before the first strike took place, the aim was that after we carry out the mission, we will escalate. So at every stage, there was supposed to be de-escalation, and that lever was in our hands, which is why after those 9 targets were taken out on the night of 6th and 7th of May, our DGMO spoke to his counterpart and told him, we have destroyed these targets, which were terrorist targets. We have taken out the hides, we have taken out the headquarters, and we will not go any further. But should you retaliate, there will be a response. Right. So from our side, we closed it. The operation could very well have failed that day had Pakistan not responded. Now, Pakistan chose to respond, which is their right. They responded. And here was the second success which we achieved. Every single drone and missile which they sent inside Indian territory was detected and destroyed. And they could carry out no damage which was significant. That means no military target was hit. Albeit, yes, there was some destruction to civil property. Some civilians were hurt and some casualties took place there. Now, based on that, again, India carried out a strike in which we hit their military targets. And when they retaliated, we hit them the third time. And this time, even the BrahMos was used. The net result of hitting the military targets was their radar installations and their early warning systems were destroyed. Their airfields were hit. The ability of their aircraft to take off got degraded. And that was the time when it was the Pakistanis who approached the Americans. They didn't approach us directly. They approached the Americans and they asked for peace. The Americans told India, and we said no. It is a bilateral issue between Pakistan and India. If if we have to have de-escalation, Pakistan has to request. That is when their DGMO spoke to our DGMO, and we said, okay, we will not take it forward if you do not. That is how the peace came about.
Right.
Uh, if the Pakistanis had retaliated, we'd have gone for one more day. If they had
Yeah.
stopped, we could have stopped 2 days earlier.
Yeah.
Now, when we consider all this, we were successful in hitting the targets which we wanted to hit, and the Pakistanis could not prevent it. On the other hand, they were not able to take on our targets. The numbers,
Yes.
the one aspect of this entire operation which has not been spoken of is the role of the Indian Navy. Now, the
Right.
Indian Navy was actually deployed in the most crucial area. You were covering the sea flanks as far as Pakistan was concerned. And that, I think, was a very, very strong deterrent posture, because
Yeah.
any escalation from us on the sea side would have really put Pakistan into very severe trouble. So I think when we're looking at it dispassionately, without any drum beating, without anything, it was a limited conflict spread over 3 to 4 days, in which the Pakistanis could not achieve any objective. We achieved our objectives and we controlled the escalation. Zafar.
Yes, and the objectives were very clear. The destruction of the terror camps, which were achieved in just 22 minutes. What followed afterwards was Pakistan's, sort of response and then engagement that followed. Had Pakistan not responded, it would have been perhaps just those 22 minutes, and that would have been the end of it. After all those terror camps were destroyed, but it lasted for a few days because of the engagement that followed. But Prime Minister Modi had spoken in Bihar after the Pahalgam terror attack, and he said that कल्पना से भी ज्यादा मतलब उन्होंने कल्पना भी नहीं की होगी जिस तरह का एक्शन लिया जाएगा, and he had clearly said that. And today again in Bihar, and he said that Vachan, Pran Jaye par Vachan na Jaye, that the promise that was made has now been fulfilled. If we can first play that sound bite, and then we can go to Alok ji.
साथियों, सासाराम की इस धरती के तो नाम में भी राम है। सासाराम, सासाराम के लोग जानते हैं भगवान राम और उनके कुल की रीति क्या थी। प्राण जाए पर वचन न जाई, यानी जो वचन एक बार दे दिया वो पूरा होकर के ही रहता है। प्रभु श्री राम की ये रीति अब नए भारत की नीति बन गई है। अभी पहलगाम में जम्मू कश्मीर में आतंकी हमला हुआ था। हमारे कितने निर्दोष नागरिक मारे गए। इस जघन्य आतंकी हमले के बाद एक दिन के बाद मैं बिहार आया था और मैंने बिहार की धरती से देश को वादा किया था, वचन दिया था, बिहार की धरती पर आंख में आंख मिलाकर हमने कह दिया था, आतंक के आकाओं के ठिकानों को मिट्टी में मिला दिया जाएगा। बिहार की धरती पर मैंने कहा था, उन्हें कल्पना से भी बड़ी सजा होगी। आज जब मैं बिहार आया हूं तो अपने वचन पूरा करने के बाद आया हूं।
Right. You heard the Prime Minister there. Alok ji, India has united to expose Pakistan globally. We know that these delegations are visiting several countries right now and talking to people there. Do you think that India has succeeded in reframing cross-border, military action as a legitimate counter-terrorism action? Because that is what India has said, that it was just meant to demolish the terrorist camps, and it was not meant to go further than that. There was no intention to target Pakistani military or any civilian area. These were precision targets that were carried out.
See, firstly, we need to be very clear, as General Katoch said, that militarily we achieved phenomenal success. Our attacks deep inside Pakistani territory were precise, accurate, and very, very effective. In fact, by targeting places like Jacobabad, Bulari camp, and Bahawalpur, we have shown that we can target any place in Pakistan. Jacobabad is virtually the center of Pakistan,
Right.
actually. If you look at it, it's in northern Sindh, touching Baluchistan boundary. And in a
Right.
place like that, when you hit the center of a runway, that shows the technical capabilities of Indian weapon system. Similarly, in Bulari, it's north of Karachi, where we hit actually the hangar, and a squadron leader and 5-6 airmen died. There again, we showed how effective our weapon systems are. So, as far as damage to Pakistan's military is concerned, I think there is no doubt that we were extremely effective, and we have shown to the world what is the efficacy of our weapon systems, some of which were indigenous, and the world saw them for the first time.
Right.
Pakistani retaliation was primarily to prove to its own public that they are doing something. And that's why their retaliation was of the type which made noise, which was visible to public. And as a result, you saw artillery shelling falling on civilian areas. You saw a host of drones flying and trying to target civilian areas. So we saw that. And that they were also effectively engaged by our air defense system, which again proved its efficacy. Now, what is important is that we have shown to the world that Pakistan's nuclear bluff is no longer valid, because we have shown to the world that below the nuclear threshold, there is scope for a conventional warfare, which we have shown.
Yes.
We had shown in Balakot. Now we have gone further. We have actually attacked the Pakistan's heartland, and this is below the nuclear threshold. Pakistan for long has been propagating that there is everything is nuclear. We have shown that yes, there is a scope for a nuclear threshold, and which we have established. Secondly, we have established a doctrine that any terror attack will be perceived as an act of war, and we will respond accordingly. So now
Right.
Pakistan knows that any attack will be retaliated in the conventional field. The second important factor is the teams that we selected and sent across the globe are all party teams. That actually shows the world that we are all together. And people like Shashi Tharoor, people like Mr. Owaisi, they have really made huge impact across the globe. In fact, in Pakistan's parliament, there was actually a demand by PTI saying that, see, India has sent an all-party delegation and you are here, you have actually just restricted it to your party. You're not trying to take the country together. And whatever unity was achieved during the war has actually now frittered away as far as Pakistan is concerned. So there is no doubt that we have attained enormous success. And I hope these delegations, which are going to a number of countries, will be far more successful and will attain more success in days to come.
Right. And it was very timely that these delegations, we saw actually Shashi Tharoor taking a lead, doing those interviews with foreign media outlets. And now we're seeing him almost on a daily basis giving those press conferences in different parts of the world and trying to put across India's point of view. But we're also talking about areas which were worse hit by Pakistani shelling, like Poonch, where there were casualties, there were civilian areas that were bombed by Pakistan. Today, Home Minister was in Poonch and he met with the families of the victims, and he also said something significant about the damage that were inflicted on Pakistan. If we can hear that soundbite first.
प्रणाली चुन चुन कर आपने ध्वस्त कर दी, जो खड़ा करने में दुश्मन को शायद 4-5 साल का समय लगेगा। इसका मतलब ये होता है कि शांति काल में भी आपने आपकी पैनी नजर इनके व्यूहात्मक स्थानों पर बनाए रखी। आपने सटीक जानकारी और इसके साथ साथ जब उस ओर से शुरुआत होती है तो कम से कम समय में सबसे ज्यादा क्षति किस प्रकार से पहुंचा पाएंगे वो सोच कर रखा, उसकी तैयारी भी की और ईश्वर ने मौका दिया तो कर भी दिखा दिया। मैंने आपके डीजी साहब से मुझे जो रिपोर्ट मिली उसको बारीकी से देखा है। सबसे बड़ा नुकसान अगर पाकिस्तान की साइड पर हुआ है तो उनकी निगरानी उपकरणों की क्षमता को ध्वस्त करने का हुआ है और इसके कारण एक लंबे समय तक वो संपूर्ण जानकारी वाली लड़ाई नहीं लड़ पाए। एक 3 दिन के समय के अंदर 118 से ज्यादा पोस्टों को नुकसान करना या पूर्णतया ध्वस्त करना ये बहुत बड़ी बात होती है और ये बहादुरी तभी होती है जब देश पर गर्व होता है, दिल में देशभक्ति की भावना होती है और सर्वोच्च बलिदान देने का जज्बा होता है, तभी जाकर ये परिणाम आता है।
General Katoj, is the destruction of Pakistan's surveillance infrastructure, that is what the Home Minister was pointing at, a game changer in future engagements, if at all those engagements take place across the line of control? Because he said that it takes some years for Pakistan to rebuild that surveillance mechanism, because that is what has been destroyed by Indian strikes.
Actually, when you're looking at the radars, etc., which were destroyed, the complete systems have been taken out. That is going to take a lot of time to build up. And it is simply not a question of buying an aircraft and, and putting things up. You've got to get them, you've got to bid for a system, you've got to get it there, you've got to install it, you've got to test it. It's going to take time. I don't think 5 to 6 years may be too long, maybe excessive time. They can do it faster. Yeah. But I think certainly for a year they have been put up. But I think the bigger message is different, The bigger message is anywhere in Pakistan we can take out a pinpoint target. That capability is there. And now what systems is Pakistan supposed to get which will detect, track and destroy an incoming missile to them? I don't think they can do it to the BrahMos. If they can't do it to the BrahMos, then I think their defenses are open. And if in any future conflict, what will happen is if we take out their visibility means, their means to detect, detect and track, then their ability to launch automatically gets degraded. So within the first 2 to 3 days of the battle, they are going to be in a very, very difficult situation. And along with that, you'll take out their runways also. So this is going to be a different battle. In fact, now I'm thinking even the armed forces of India, we are going to reorganize in a different way. This is not the way we are going to, the way battles are going to be fought in future is exactly the way we have fought these 48 to 72 hours. And that is how we have to plan. On the land border side, he also mentioned about 118 posts being destroyed.
Yeah. Yes.
Presumably, he was mentioning to the BOPs, the border outposts, and stuff on the border. Now that of course can be built up in a very quick time, but the psychological messaging of that is going to be very, very deep. You see, artillery shelling is much more in the mind than what actually happens on the ground. It is not so much the artillery shell; it is the psychological effect of that shell. Okay, a shell is coming, which really jitters people. And for India, I think we could have carried on this artillery shelling for a month or 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. The Pakistanis could not have sustained it for more than 5 days. The reason why they actually sued for a ceasefire was that, they wanted something, they wanted a face saver. They didn't get a face saver. So, they still sued for peace. And then they claimed victory. And the best way of claiming victory is to, make their chief a field marshal. And, that gives the impression that we won the war. Okay, so be it. But over a period of time, you see, when they start analyzing, when you look at the cost effectiveness, the ratios, what all they have lost and what all they have gained, they will find that they have gained nothing. Not one military target has been taken out by their missile systems on the ground. They've not been able to manage that. But they have not. For them, the bad news is they could not protect their own targets from our missiles.
Yeah, it is very simple that when India struck the terror camps, all those strikes were successful. They could not prevent those strikes. Their air defense system could not prevent those strikes. And when when they fired their missiles, all of them were deflected or shot down.
But Zafar, the important messaging is, the first day, okay, let us say for whatever reason, they were taken by surprise because we hit the terrorist camps, which they didn't expect. But the second night and the third night, they knew the military targets are going to be attacked, and yet they failed to protect them. You see, that is the bigger message. Some things happen in the military. The first night, okay, they may not have been protecting the terrorist camps. Okay. But the military, they were certainly protecting their air assets. They were certainly protecting the runways. And they were certainly protecting the radars. And when they got destroyed, I think it was a cause of great concern to them, and an even greater concern to the Chinese who had supplied them the equipment.
So it is a failure of the Chinese defense systems also. But that takes us back to the point that what is Pakistan going back to its playbook? Alokji, maybe you can throw some light. This hybrid threats, Pakistan resorting back to its playbook of instigating terrorism, or maybe cyber attacks, infiltrations, that is what they've been doing, because conventional war, they cannot possibly stand a chance. Do you think that threat is even more now, or Operation Sindoor has really put a check on that?
See, unlike what Pakistan had projected to the public, their military and the political leadership realizes the damage that they have suffered in this Operation. They also know the void that has been created in their surveillance system, as Home Minister was rightly bringing out, that their radar system, their air defense systems actually have crumbled. It will take at least 5 years for them to recreate them if they have funds. So there are huge voids in their air defense system, and they're extremely vulnerable. So knowing that, they would not indulge in such activities which might provoke India again immediately. So at least in some foreseeable future, we'll see restraint by Pakistan. But as I said, their character is such that as and when they are in a position, they will again do that. Meanwhile, they may also like to indulge in activities which they will have deniability. Activities which you cannot directly associate with them. In parts of India which are not contiguous to Pakistan, which are far off from Pakistan, by outfits which you cannot directly associate with Pakistan. So those are feasibilities that you cannot deny. Here, I must make it very clear. What Pakistan has done is that Pakistan has projected to its populace that they have managed to withhold a much bigger India. And as a result, they have claimed success, like they had done in 1965, as you know. They still celebrate Defense of Pakistan Day on 6th September, because they claim that they achieved victory in 1965. That time also they had promoted a field marshal. Now they have again promoted a field marshal. But you should remember that last time they promoted an army general to the rank of field marshal, Pakistan broke away within a decade. So next time they are again committing the same mistake, they'll have to watch out.
Right. That's an important, sort of a slice of history. But coming to the role of Navy, General Saab, I was hearing Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. He was saying that Pakistan is lucky that Navy got involved not in a major way. It got involved, but it did not get involved in a major way in Operation Sindoor. And he said that if Navy would have got involved in a major way, that Pakistan could have perhaps split into 4 parts. That he said he tried to. He recalled 1971. He said that when Navy got involved, Pakistan broke into 2. In fact, let us hear that soundbite first.
पाकिस्तान को पता है जब भारतीय नौसेना पूरे जोश के साथ, पूरे जोर के साथ जब चलती है तो उसका अंजाम क्या होता है। 1971 इसका गवाह है कि जब इंडियन नेवी हरकत में आई थी वह 1 से 2 हो गया था। मैं पाकिस्तान की बात कर रहा हूं। जब हमारी इंडियन नेवी हरकत में आई थी तो पाकिस्तान 1 से 2 हो गया था। अगर ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में भारतीय नौसेना अपनी फॉर्म में आई होती तो पाकिस्तान के 2 टुकड़े ही न होते, बल्कि मैं समझता हूं शायद 4 टुकड़े हो जाते। साथियों, जिस तरह आप हमारी समुद्री सीमाओं की रक्षा करते हैं, जिस इंटेंसिटी से आप हिंद महासागर की हरकत को ट्रैक करते हैं, अगर आपकी वह क्रेडिबिलिटी, कैपेबिलिटी इस मिशन का हिस्सा होती तो पाकिस्तान का क्या अंजाम होता, यह मुझे बताने की जरूरत नहीं है। एक तरह से कहें तो पाकिस्तान बहुत खुश नसीब है कि ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के दौरान हमारी नेवी ने अपने पराक्रम का जितना प्रदर्शन करना चाहिए था वह नहीं कर पाई।
General Saab, the point is that Pakistan Air Force still has manpower, has equipments, has aircrafts that could engage in a fight with India. But Navy is the weakest link, and had Indian Navy also come into play, then things would have been different. That is what the defense minister is pointing at.
You see, Zafar, that actually the Navy did come into play. They just didn't fire.
Yeah.
And the very fact that they were deployed created great tension and hesitancies in the mind of the Pakistani military commanders and their civilian leadership. You see, the Navy doesn't have to fire. Their very presence is a deterrent, and you have the Western Fleet there, right?
Yeah.
The aircraft carrier was there with its entire fleet of ships, and they were battle ready. They just required the order. I think Karachi would have been in a mess if they had actually gone into doing what the defense minister is mentioning.
Yeah.
So even without firing a shot, they were very, very effective. That was a deterrent effect. Now, I think if they had gone into action, the air defenses of Pakistan are much better defended from the land-water side. Not that well from the from the naval side, though there would have been defense there. But you see, the amount of effort they have put in from the land side, it will be slightly different to what they have done on the Karachi coast, the Balochistan coast and the Sindh coast. There, I think they would have been in very, very serious trouble. I'm not even talking of aircraft, the missiles. If the Navy had fired, say 20 to 30 BrahMos missiles, what could these people have done? Every single missile would have hit a pinpoint target. You could have taken down half their fleet. So they were in very serious trouble. And more importantly, what happens to their trade? The entire blockade takes place of their harbor. What do? So this is the Navy was a very potent weapon. In fact, very frankly, amongst all the 3 services, I personally feel the Navy is the most potent, because the damage which they can cause is something phenomenal. And I think the Pakistanis realize that. It is not an accident that the DGMO rings up our DGMO and says, let's have an understanding of whatever word you want to give it. Yeah. But that was the Indian plan ab initio, so we really didn't go for it. So we said, okay, we wanted de-escalation, and that was our de-escalation measures. But I think, when it is very funny, every time when people say, the Navy's role was limited, I said, no, the Navy's role is not limited. It was a very, very major role actually played out. And, the whole Navy fleet is there, and it gives you it gives you great strength and the ability to give a punch whenever you wish to. At the flick of a second, at a word command, they would have been in action. They wouldn't have required time to deploy. They were deployed. So all that they had to do was to press the switch, the targets were determined, and the destruction would have become. That was the Indian Navy. It was a very powerful weapon, and it was used, except that the weapon was not fired. I think the Pakistanis should be grateful. Zafar.
Yeah. That's what the defense minister was also saying. But Aloki, I come back to we talk about politics a bit of all of this. We're getting these delegations that are going abroad and talking to people, which we talked about Shashi Tharoor. Salman Khurshid also, there and speaking. Despite the politics that's going on in India, what's Congress saying and the way their public statements, Congress stand on Article 370. We know that that's been there for all these years. But Salman Khurshid spoke about Article 370, and he was very clear that Article 370 was sort of a thing that was creating an illusion that Kashmir is somehow separate from the rest of the country, and that is gone, and that's brought about very much the stand that is shown by the government for all these years, unlike the Congress stand. How do you? Let's play that soundbite, and then perhaps we can throw some light on that.
Kashmir had a major problem for a long time. Much of that was reflected in the thinking of the government in an article called 370 of the Constitution, which somehow gave an impression that it was separate from the rest of the country. But Article 370 was abrogated. It was abrogated. And it was finally put to an end because so much time has passed. Subsequently, there was an election in 65% participation in election. There's an elected government in Jammu and Kashmir today. And therefore, for people to want to undo everything that has happened, the prosperity that has come to Kashmir is something which is very unfortunate, and it will give a setback to anybody. And as you know, your part of the world, in all the countries in this neighborhood, nobody can be told, give up a part of your sovereignty, give up a part of your country, give up a part of your family. Kashmir and we are family together. Nobody can break up this family. Nobody can break up our home. That is the only message we are giving. And the limited exercise we need to do to ensure that our family remains safe is all we did for 4 days, and when we tried to give a message to Pakistan. Please don't do this misadventure. You will not succeed. And I hope that we've been able to give this message. Thank you.
Alovi, I thought it's a very significant statement that he made there, explaining the whole thing.
Come to this. As a former naval officer, let me make a few points on the issue.
Yes.
Said it's important that I should be saying something. See, firstly, you need to understand that Navy presents a threat in being. Navy doesn't have to actually go into action. The very presence of Navy itself creates a threat. And the moment we had joined both the fleets and they were in Arabian Sea, it actually posed a threat for Pakistan because Pakistan did not know where they're going to strike. It is all along their coast. So it actually puts them into tenterhooks. Pakistan, which is highly import dependent, was extremely vulnerable to any naval blockade or attack by the Navy. On top of that, their air defense system and surveillance system along Makran coast are virtually non-existent except for certain points, leaving Ormara or Pazni or something like that. There are huge gaps as far as their Makran coast is concerned. Thirdly, there is turbulence all along Makran coast. The Baloch insurgency is actually highly active in that particular part of the coast. So again, that was very important. The asymmetry between forces, as far as the three services are concerned, is highest in terms of Navy. Our Navy is far superior to Pakistan's Navy, and as a result, apart from their submarines, none of their surface ships dared to venture outside to the sea throughout this conflict or anything. Our fleet was just south of that. And the fact, because they were so far off, they could have struck anywhere, they could have launched an amphibious assault, that actually put them on tenterhooks, and that's why they were worried. As it is, you know, that Pakistan's petroleum supplies were getting depleted. They had actually closed down all petrol pumps along the border areas. So they were worried that in case of any strike on their storage facilities or on the harbor, they would be running dry. So that is as far as Navy was concerned. Navy did play a very major role, and in fact, it was a major threat. Probably they did not go into the conflict because any naval attack would have had a greater ramification, because then it becomes a bigger issue, because Navy's arena of operation is entire ocean. It's not confined to one particular area. A Navy can operate thousands of kilometers in a day. So that has its own dimensions. And that's why I think India exercised restraint and we did not go. Now, coming to Mr. Salman Khurshid's point, it's a very important point, and I need to be very clear. I think most people in Congress, I think, subscribe to this idea that Article 370 was a relic which created certain doubts in the minds of people, and I think that's been done away for good. Now, what Congress says within the country is for domestic consumption and for their political aims. What Mr. Salman Khurshid said is actually the right statement that he gave, and I think almost all ideologues or top leadership of Congress who understand international relations, who understand geopolitics and strategy, believe in that. So what Congress may say domestically, I think, is at variance with what is in national interest.
Right. That's a very a significant point, because when I heard that soundbite, I thought it's very important to reflect it. Janat Saab, we come almost to the end of our show, but I wanted to ask you that we spoke about the military success, the way that India has been putting across its case diplomatically, but there must be some lessons that have been learned from Operation Sindoor for any civil military diplomatic synergy in the future. What are the lessons that you think that are derived from Operation Sindoor? Of course, it starting from the Pahalgam terror attack, and then the Indian strikes, and then what followed after that.
I think one of the lessons which comes out very clearly is it is not simply a military operation.
Yeah.
It is a whole of government operation. You see, the entire government was involved, not just the armed forces. So you had the intelligence services, you had the political authority, the decision makers, and of course the military as the executive arm. Everybody was involved, and they got together on this. This is one. Number two, I think a very important lesson is really for the military how future wars are going to be fought, and how destruction can be carried out on specific targets within a very, very limited time frame. That is how the battles are going to be fought. When we looked into when the parliament was attacked, or when the Mumbai attacks took place, there was no response from India, because the very fact that your response was actually a whole of an assault by the army. Now we are looking at different things. We are going to take pinpoint targets. We are going to take you down, and it is very high, very firepower intensive, very space intensive, very missile intensive, and a whole of government approach. And I think we have to factor that into all our future planning. The third thing is there has been a radical shift in our methodologies, and our postures. Earlier we had a policy of strategic restraint. A word, sounds so nice, strategic restraint. Yeah. India is exercising strategic restraint. It really meant we are doing nothing, right? And this strategic restraint kept on right up to 2016. For the first time, we changed it in the surgical strikes and then in the Balakot strikes to deterrence. That deterrence also has failed. Now, the new policy which has come in is compellence. I use the word compellence. We will compel Pakistan to abide by what we tell them and stop terror, because it is simply not kinetic anymore. It is a combination of kinetic and non-kinetic, and the non-kinetic is going to be Indus waters, visas, all those steps which have been announced, when they are going to be put together, that is the non-kinetic effect. And one of the reasons why these, of course, all-party delegation has gone abroad, of course, to explain the India point of view. But there is something else which they will be telling the entire audience, that we have changed our policy, and any attack on Indian soil will be perceived to be done by the Pakistan military establishment, and we will attack them. It's an act of war. We have made our intention very clear, and that is going to be informed also to the foreign audiences. So we are looking at a doctrinal shift in how we approach our affairs. We are looking at a reorganization shift within the military, which will take place now. And we are looking at any future conflict which takes place as a whole of government approach, with both kinetic and non-kinetic measures being applied together. Zafar.
Right. Alok, last word to you before we wrap up.
I said there are lessons to be learned. I think militarily we did phenomenally well. We did it. I think whether we should have gone for a kinetic action or should have stuck to only non-kinetic action, which would have been far more debilitating for Pakistan, needs to be decided. One issue which I feel is that as soon as Pahalgam attack happened, I think nobody in India had an iota of doubt who was behind it, because no Kashmiri would indulge in that sort of an attack which actually hits at their belly, because Their livelihoods were affected. Terrorism was done. And I think it was very clear that some external agency was involved, and it could only have been Pakistan. But personally, I feel for the international community, it would have been better if we would have started blaming Pakistan after a paucity of time, with some more credible evidence at that point of time. I think at that point of time, we were, I think, started accusing Pakistan a little too early. Although it was a foregone conclusion, everybody in India knew, and everybody knows that it was from Pakistan. But from international community's point of view, I think it would have been a little better if we would have taken a little pause and established that Pakistan-based terror outfits were involved in it, and then made a statement that would have probably carried a greater conviction. That's what I feel. Though I think nobody at any stretch of time had a doubt that these people were from Pakistan who had actually indulged in this act of terror.
Right. Thank you so much, Alok ji. Thanks so much, General Saab, for joining us today and for sharing your thoughts. And thanks to our viewers for watching the Mojo Story. Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.